Hello again, Andy with HandyANDYHome.com, and welcome back to another run through. This is a little deck repair project we're going to be doing for a good client of ours, and this is a rental property that she purchased. And this deck is probably built about 30 to 35 years ago, would be my guess. This is old growth, real 2x6 lumber that's in this thing, but some of the nails are rotted. They didn't have joist hangers, so we're just going to come through and tighten it up. We're not going to replace it because that's what she was looking at doing, is replacing all the top wood. But this stuff is so much better than anything that you would buy today, that once it's cleaned up and the few rotted boards on it are replaced, it'll be in great shape, especially for a rental. So for a fraction of the cost, you'll have a pretty good looking deck up there. So down below here, they built this thing, they just nailed everything, and you can see we don't have any joist hangers here. So the boys are gonna come in and at the rim plate, the rim board all the way around the edge, they're gonna add 2 screws to each one of these joists. Whereas right now they're nailed, and the deck hasn't really moved over all these years. There's a couple spots up here, like this next post right here, you'll see where it's pulled away, but see how nice and tight these are here? But there's no ledger board here, which was a code requirement when this deck was built, and I'm pretty sure this old homeowner did this himself. So we're gonna add a 2x joist hanger here that'll be screwed in all the way down this run. So there's 25 pair, 50 joist hangers need to be added on the front and back of this thing all the way down. The 4x4 posts are in pretty good shape. The boys are going to come through here, and like where we got a nail pop here, going to add a few screws just to make it a little more secure, but it's not going anywhere. They did double up the rim plate, which we'd like to see that. They got a couple splices that I'm not real fond of, but it's okay for what this deck is. It's not going anywhere. And then the boys will come through and we're going to replace, I'll show you up top, we'll replace this 5/4 by 6 cap all the way around. Some of it's 5/4 board, some of it's 2x lumber. Some of it's really 2x lumber with a 5/4 board on top, and so we'll actually replace those boards all the way around. They're just beat up, so we'll come back in with new pressure treated wood there all the way around the top of the deck. But that'll make this nice and tight back here, and then pressure wash it and stain it, and we'll give her pricing to do that too. We pretty much do everything. This is a long time client of ours, so we're happy to have clients like this. So on the top of the deck here, we'll replace this edge board right here. You may not be able to see it real well, but you'll see that it's moving. This deck was nailed, but it's nailed with 3-inch nails. They're not spiral shank, but they're old nails, and they really made the stuff. You can march an elephant across this thing, and I'm not quite an elephant, but I'm half of one, I guess. So you can see the condition of this top rail all the way around through here. So we'll come through here, replace all that. This is true 2x6 lumber, but you can see the condition of it. At one point it had that 5/4 board. You can see where it was nailed, and it's just rotted away. So we'll replace that all the way around. We're going to leave the railing itself beyond the top caps just the way it is. It gets expensive to do all that. And again, this is a rental property, so you want to make it look pretty, but really they want to make it look safe. So up on this deck, we've got a number of boards that I've written down. So we're going to pressure wash this stuff off, clean it up. But see, most of it's in pretty good shape. Where we get to issues is we start getting to, I think it's deck board number 14 or 16. This one right here, you'll see it's got a pretty good chunk of rot in this area right here, dry rotted. You skip over one to the next board right here, and you see all the rot in this board. And then we'll go over to this one, which is I think number 18, has a chunk of rot in it. And then we're pretty well good, I think, until we get back over here. This is number 26, just pop loose on the nail right there. So they'll really nail, they'll check everything inch by inch and add screws where they need to. We always, and remember this when you do this, this old fella that built this deck in, let's say 35 years ago, you can tell that he drilled pilot holes for most of these nails before he drove them. There's very few places on this deck where the wood has split around the nail. Now it has over time, just from the aging process. I was on a deck last week that's only, a few months old, and because the guy came in with a standing tall screwer and screwed everything down without any pilot holes, that deck's got splits all over the place. 3 or 4 years from now, that'll only be replacing the whole thing. So compare that to what this is. This thing's been out here 35 years, and it's in pretty good shape. So we got one deck board right here. The last one in the run, I think it's number 29. They'll replace that one. And then on this longer run of the deck, again, we'll be changing out this top cap of 5/4 board and 2x6 underneath it, all the way from that edge down and around the whole perimeter of the deck. They'll add screws to this railing to tighten it up some. And then on the longboard deck, we'll replace row number 3, row number 6. And the reason we're doing whole rows is these are pretty rotted anyway. But the other reason we're doing it is the lumber that we're going to put in here is going to be a slightly different thickness. You can't get true 2x lumber anymore without going to a custom mill, or it's really prohibitively expensive. So this is true dimensional 2-inch, real 2-inch thick lumber. We can't buy it anymore, at least not at prices that make sense. So it'll be a little bit thinner than what we have here. So we'll replace the entire row. If you can see down there at that end, he had a planter or something there, and it dry rotted the run. So boards 3, 6, and I think there was one more that we were replacing. It might have been this one right here. So I think there's only 3 boards on this whole run that we're replacing. And other than that, I mean, they got a pretty decent deck, so you can see the condition of it as we come in right here. So we'll replace all of that, each row all the way across. And then up here on this end, you can see where he had some sort of a planter or bench or something that dry rotted, held the water and just dry rotted. So when you have a deck, don't just put a planter out there and let it sit there for 20 years as this guy probably did. Move it around once in a while, let it dry out, let the sun get in there. You got kind of a privacy wall on this end, so it blocks a little bit of the sun in that corner. Doesn't get a real chance to dry out if you've got something over there. But overall, this is a really well built deck. Even the way that it's built right now, you could drive a tractor trailer on this thing. It's not going to go anywhere. This is better than most things that we see every day out in the world as Handy Andy. So we'll deal with this deck back here, and then on the left side of the house, you'll see they had something parked against the house here, and this is board and batten siding. It's really faux board because it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and they just nailed these battens on here to give them that look. So the boys will have to remove some of these battens, replace this sheet of plywood underneath, and then prime and paint it to match what's there, and it'll be fine. And then as we come around to the front, we got to pull, this was an old light that they had out here. We'll pull that inside the garage and just put the wiring in a junction box so they can use it for something else. And then out here on the front of the house, we've got a little front porch here that the slab has settled. And you know, to jack these things up with urethane, it runs about $2,500 to $3,000 just to level this thing off. So what we're going to do here is we'd rather spend that money and give us a finished deck. So we're going to put a deck floor across this thing, and we're going to pitch it to jack it up a little bit in the back so any water gets in, at least off the wood, will shed to the front. We'll seal that edge along. It won't get much water just because it's protected in here. But building it this way, it is going to rot out at some time in the future. And we told the homeowner that probably 15 or 20 years, some of what we're going to put here is going to rot out. But for now, that's all they want to do. And then on this corner of the deck here, this post is sagged for some reason, and you can see it. They just had a new roof put on, and I'm not sure why the roofers didn't address it, but you can see the dip in the roof line right here. And so we'll jack this, we'll replace that 4x4 post with one. It probably only has to go up about 2 inches, 1.5 inches to make it right, 2 inches, and that'll be it. So typical project for us, we pretty much do anything from an hour to 2 weeks. Got a full crew of guys. We do anything, handyman, all kinds of repairs, siding, carpentry. Usually I'm in that little truck right there. You can catch us at 770-912-2829. I'm Andy. I'll see you at the next house. Bye for now.